What is going on, everybody? It's your boy Gsluke here for our round 3 showdown picks for this week's Wells Fargo Championship. Round 2 was certainly some carnage. We saw over a 2.5 stroke over par scoring average. And for Saturday and Sunday, we're going to see even more of that. We have guys that are going to be in the 20 to 30 mile an hour range in terms of wind gusts tomorrow. We're going to have cold conditions in the 50s, maybe even 55-degree weather tomorrow. So a lot to talk about from a skill set perspective because it's going to play much differently here for round 3 than even what we saw for round 2 today. A lot of the issues came up with just the dampness, a lot of the rain that was coming down. Of course, it's a lot harder to hit the ball straight when it's in the rain, but also makes the golf course longer. So with no delay at all, let's go ahead and hop into the weather for tomorrow because it is going to be a huge talking point for us. We'll catch up on chat. I see a few of you down there. Antonio says, "What's up, bro? We had a couple of sweats today, that's for sure." Connors and Henley can't believe both made the cut. I agree with you. Early on, I had 28 of my 31 players playing at the same time. So I've never really stacked one wave before. It's usually been like a 75-25 stack. But this week for me, it was like a true 85-15 stack. So having all those guys going on at the same time was quite the ruckus today. It was quite the sweat, like you said. Really glad they both came through. I also had Answer and Matt Fitzpatrick playing in the afternoon wave, and I was kind of worried about them as well. So I'm glad they came through. Steven's down here as well, saying that he's in the house. What's going on, Steven? Hopefully you're doing well here. Let's talk about this weather, though, because tomorrow, guys, we're going to see some of the hardest conditions that these guys ever see. And to be quite honest with you, it's really, really hard to project the scoring average for tomorrow because it could be upwards of 3, maybe even 3.5 shots over par. I mean, you're looking at some of the strongest wind gusts you're going to see ever on the PGA Tour. I mean, 37, 38 mile an hour wind gusts. Luckily, they have delayed tee times until 10:45. A lot of people probably expected that to be due to the round today not finishing. Of course, they did just finish the round. Everyone was able to finish their second round today. It's because of these wind gusts. This is unplayable. You can't play when it's gusting upwards of 30, even 40 miles an hour. The ball is not going to stay in the same place. So the reason why they're teeing off later, they'll be teeing off right around 10:45 a.m. Eastern time off of both tees. So there's not really going to be an AM-PM split. That's why. It's because of these winds in the morning. They're ridiculous. And they're still going to be in the 30 mile an hour range for the rest of the day. So it's not like they really calm down all that much. Still going to be seeing just absolute carnage out there, people missing fairways, people missing greens all over the place, and it's going to be raining all day. So not only are you dealing with the windy conditions tomorrow, which really wasn't a part of the fold today, the wind was in the 10 to 15 mile an hour range. 30 miles an hour is a completely different story. You're also dealing with the weather and also cold conditions. You can see just 50 degrees in terms of the temperature down there. Today, it was in the mid 50s, almost even 60s up here. You can see 63 right around midday. And in terms of the wind gusts, you can see it was a whole 10, even 15 miles an hour less. So if you thought today was tough, just wait until tomorrow. It's going to be absolute carnage out there. And in terms of the scoring average, it was 2.6 over par. So it was, no snack today. It was an absolute beast out there. That's why you saw a lot of blow-up rounds. And even though a lot of the quote-unquote outliers are going to be cut out of the field, some of those amateurs, some of the people that weren't playing so well that shot like 10 to 14 over par today. Yes, I'm talking about you, Aaron Baddeley, Mr. 84 today. I mean, what the heck was that all about? It's still going to be absolute carnage. I would expect a scoring average at least 2.6 over par, if not closer to 3, maybe even 3.5 over par. With that being said, the player pool for tomorrow is going to be vastly different than our 4-round stuff and also vastly different than what we are looking at for round 2. We're looking at bogey avoidance. We're looking at guys that can get up and down, people that are skilled at hitting out of the rough. Is going to be a much different animal here because these conditions dictate that. You're probably going to see guys hitting maybe 10, 11 greens of regulation on a good day tomorrow. In terms of fairway percentage, I would expect that to also be down in terms of what we usually see here. So you're really looking at saving par being a good score tomorrow. In fact, the quote-unquote ceiling performance tomorrow might be something like 2, maybe 3 under par might be the best score that we see. We'll catch up on chat down below. We got Nick down here. He says, "So glad you're earlier tonight. Us old people go to bed early. Glad to be able to get you guys this content a little bit sooner. So we play 100% Knox." Yeah, we'll talk about Knox, right? He's very good in these shitty conditions when it gets super windy, when it gets super cold, that kind of thing. I'm okay with Knox. I'm not going to play 100%. I know you're just kidding there, obviously, Nick. But yeah, he's definitely going to be a play for tomorrow. Catch Me Can't says unplayable my ass. They should have chosen an indoor sport. Bunch of pussies. I agree, right? Put them out there in the 40-mile-an-hour conditions, right? Make the greens a little bit slower. Don't cut them quite as low. Put them, at 0.15 inches rather than 0.1, whatever they do for the PGA Tour standard, and get them out there, right? I agree with you. That would be pure entertainment. I mean, if we were able to just watch these guys playing at 40, 50-mile-an-hour winds, I mean, that'd be pretty cool. Steven says, going to be pretty brutal tomorrow. I absolutely agree. Tony says, how disappointing was Young today? His putter was ice cold. I mean, slightly disappointing, right? He shot, 1 over par, something like that. Still made 5 birdies. On day 1, I believe he made 7 birdies. So in terms of his actual fantasy scoring, I'm not all that bummed about it. He's doing pretty well. But yeah, I mean, if he just made a few more putts, right, that could have been closer to 18, 19 birdies rather than 12. So it feels disappointing when you frame it that way. But for tomorrow in Showdown, he's an absolute gold mine. He's lost nearly 5 strokes to the field at this point with his flat stick, as I'm sure that you looked at there, Antonio. That's why you pointed him out and whatnot. Going to be a great play for Showdown there. Chandler says, finally caught a stream. Glad to have you here live for once. I know a lot of times you're watching it on replay, Chandler. And Steven says, who are the mutters? So not sure who you're talking about with that. Go ahead and just clarify that down below. I'll be able to get back to you. Perhaps you're talking about the guys that do better in these really shitty conditions. But yeah, that's pretty much all we're going to talk about here are the guys that can handle shitty conditions. It's both a mental thing and, of course, a physical thing. In terms of your skill set, let's go ahead and touch that on first. You got to be good at all 4 categories. You got to be solid off the tee with your approach play, right? That's a given, no matter what format, no matter what conditions you're in when it comes to golf. But more importantly, you got to have a stout around the green play. You're going to miss many greens tomorrow. You also got to be a pretty damn good putter. You're going to have a lot of 5 to 10 footers for par tomorrow. So guys like a Corey Connors, he's very risky for that reason, right? The putter tomorrow could go cold on him. He could end up shooting 2 to 3 over par. But at the same time, if he gains to the field, we've seen him go out there. PGA Championship is a perfect example of what he can do when conditions are really, really shitty. Round 1, I believe it was like 8 people ended up shooting under par, and he shot 6 under par. I mean, completely just stormed the field there at Kiawah Island. Now, he obviously lost that over the weekend. It wasn't a lead that he was able to hold on to, but that shows you what can happen, given how good his ball striking already is. We know it's going to be, top notch pretty much no matter what. When he brings that putter to the table, he can still take these really hard golf courses or just when a golf course is under extremely difficult conditions low. So I like him there at $10,200. He's one of the few guys I think is capable of actually breaking something like a 66 tomorrow. I could probably count them on one hand, the guys that are even capable of shooting something like a 66 in these conditions. You're going to have absolutely perfect ball striking tomorrow to shoot something like 4 or 5 under par. And you're going to have a hot putter because you're undoubtedly going to make 2, maybe even 3 bogeys tomorrow at the very best. You're not going to see any clean cards. I can guarantee you that tomorrow. Like literally guarantee you don't see any clean cards on the score tomorrow. Russell Knox here at $10,000. Sorry, Russell Knox. Russell Henley. Got ahead of myself. Russell Knox, is he played just much further down the board, down here towards $7,000. Russell Henley, though, at $10,000. Very similar game. Accurate off the tee. One of the best approach players in the field. Can spark that hot putter. That is the recipe for taking a place low when it's like this, right? You can't be missing fairways. We know that. And you're going to have to hit almost every single green. Now, you're going to miss a few, right? So guys like Corey Connors, they do have the around the green play. Russell Henley. I keep saying Russell Knox. Jesus. He's decent around the green, right? He's not anything special, right? He's right around average. Just has to find that hot putter. So I do like going to guys like that. Guys like Rory McIlroy, on the other hand, he's much too inaccurate off the tee. He's got a high ball flight. Usually his ball is affected a little bit more by the wind than guys like a Corey Connors and a Russell Henley that tend to flight their ball down a little bit. That's why they were targets today, right? Rory McIlroy, you saw him struggle in the afternoon, and that was in the quote-unquote easier of the 2 ways. Believe it or not, the PM played slightly easier than in the AM, and he still shit the bed, right? You get any win for Rory McIlroy, there's a reason why he never wins these hard golf tournaments. You look at any golf tournament that he's won, and actually I was made aware of this week. The lowest that he's won a golf tournament at was -10. He's never won a single-digit under par golf tournament. And this week, given the conditions that we're going to have tomorrow on Sunday, it's going to be a single-digit under par winner. So that does not bode well for his game. A lot of people, they can't really figure out what's wrong with Rory McIlroy. It's his ball flight. He hits the ball well too high to have success in windy conditions. Same thing with Tony Finau. He does that same thing. He hits moonshots. I mean, with the irons, you're not going to see somebody that puts more flight on his golf balls. So at $9,800, not going to him either. Now, Abraham Answer, a little bit more excited to go to Answer. I just think he's going to be chalky because of the ball striking today. He was very accurate off the tee. He was super solid with the approach play. So maybe I'm getting a little bit cute by not playing Abraham Answer, but that's also why I have him down as a blank, right? I wouldn't tell somebody to not play him tomorrow. In terms of the shots gained metrics, they look pretty solid. On day one, his only problem was the putter. He just couldn't make anything. Today was a little bit more successful with cashing in with the flat stick, but the ball striking was there both days. So Abraham Answer, he's laying the blueprint to be a really solid play here on Saturday. I don't like the ownership, right? I just kind of want to pivot elsewhere because there's guys like Max Homa I really like, Matt Fitzpatrick I really like, and Cameron Young. And we got to touch on all three because these are arguably my favorite three plays on the slate. I'm going to start with Matt Fitzpatrick, who is my favorite play on the slate. This guy, when you have hard conditions, when 2 to 3 under par is going to be a really good round, he want to take them every single time. In fact, the first 2 rounds, he shot 2 under par day one, second round shot 2 under par, made it look easy. He hits almost every single fairway. And if he doesn't hit the fairway, he's hardly missing the fairway. Not going to be putting himself in the marshes or that kind of thing. And with his approach play, he's putting himself to 15 to 25 feet all day. And I mean, literally on almost every single hole today, he was putting himself in that 20-foot range. Now, it was a lot of 2 putts, right? It was a lot of, putting up there near the hole and just tapping in. But he did cash in for 6 birdies today. So certainly the upside is there for Matt Fitzpatrick. And the ball striking has been there. He's a very well-rounded player, pretty much gains across all 4 stat categories, no matter when you take a look at his shots gained categories. He's never really going to kill himself in one category. And like I said before, that is what you need for these hard conditions. You're going to have to be strong in everything because you're going to miss greens. You're also going to be putting yourself in position to make putts. So you got to make sure you're making your putts. You have to be good at everything. So he does that. It's definitely somebody I like at $9,300. Max Homa has been unbelievable with his ball striking to this point, gaining a ton of strokes off the tee, a ton of strokes to the field with the approach play. In fact, he's top 10 in both categories to this point, at least the last time that I checked. That was right around 2:33 p.m. So some of the guys in the afternoon wave may have passed him, but I digress. He's still going to be top 15 in either category, I would assume. At $9,400, he makes a ton of sense, right? You want to see those ball striking categories for the guys that are playing well, towards the top of the leaderboard. You want to hope that it's not the putter carrying them. And for Max Homa, that has not been the case. It's, been a positive, right? That's usually something that Max Homa taps into when he goes out there, contends, potentially wins golf tournaments. But it's certainly great to see that the ball striking has been there too. Cameron Young at $9,200. I mentioned him a little bit before because we did have the question about him. He's lost a ton of strokes putting. He's gained a ton of strokes off the tee. Been very solid with the irons. Even around the green play for Cameron Young has been pretty solid this week. And like I said at the RBC Heritage, that was a surprise performance for sure. I don't think a lot of people expected him to go out there and have the performance that he did. And he's doing it once again, right? He's showing us that even at golf courses that quote unquote don't fit his game, he's going to be able to go out there and compete. So if you can go out there, get that flat stick working, right? Even just be a neutral putter to the field, he's going to shoot something under par, which tomorrow, that's going to be a ceiling performance because he's been unbelievably accurate into greens. And one thing I mistakenly said about Cameron Young a few weeks ago, and I saw this at the RBC Heritage, right? I was able to correct this misnomer that I had, was that he was a high ball hitter. And while that is the case, he's capable of hitting the ball very high, as I've seen in the past. That's why I thought that this was the case. He's more than capable of flighting it. At the RBC Heritage, when we saw some wind over the weekend, he was hitting some ankle-high shots off the tee. I mean, some stingers that were just unbelievable. I mean, they looked like tiger stingers. If you're able to hit the tiger stinger, you are certainly able to flight your golf ball. So maybe I spoke a little bit too early about Cameron Young because he has a high average apex height, much like a Tiger Woods, right? Tiger Woods, one of the highest ball hitters that you have, capable of hoisting those 5 irons higher than anybody really we've ever seen. He can still flight the golf ball down low, right? So just because he's a high ball hitter doesn't mean that he's incapable of doing that. Whereas a Rory McIlroy, I don't know if I've ever seen him flight the golf ball. Like literally, I don't know if I've ever seen him do it. I've never seen him hit a stinger off the tee. I've certainly never seen him flight a wedge or anything like that. Everything he hits is high, right? So that's a difference between those players. Not every bomber is going to be somebody that has a high ball flight. Certainly something that I got wrong, at least a few weeks ago. Let's catch up on chat before we hop into the AK range. Move up a little bit further. You got Angela said Mitchell killed your lineups. Yeah, I had 10%, didn't really kill mine. Yeah, I didn't talk him up this week either. So it's not like, you would have gone and killed him by him because I said anything about him. Steven says horse racing idiom on wet tracks and wind. So the mutters, yeah. So when you have those really shitty conditions, it's the well-rounded players and the guys that can fight the golf ball. So the reason why Russell Knox is like the universal play when we get these conditions is he's unbelievably good at flighting the golf ball. Now, it's been performance, right? If you sort, there's a lot of databases out there where you can sort by weather conditions. Now, it's important that the sites are actually getting these weather conditions right. So you're sorting and it's actually giving you meaningful data. But a lot of the ones that I use that I trust and whatnot, if you sort by bad conditions, Russell Knox is like plus 1.5 shots per round when it comes to bad conditions. So yeah, there's the numbers back it up. The eye test does as well. He's from Scotland. He would certainly be a guy to keep an eye on. Normally, I'd say Patrick Reed, but Patrick Reed is sitting on the couch, missed the cut this week. A few other names, Patrick Cantlay, Xander Schauffele. They have all-around games. They're usually really good under really difficult conditions. In terms of wind, Joaquin Neiman's a low ball hitter. Again, none of these guys are in the field, unfortunately. Let me scroll through and see if we have any in here, because I know Russell Knox is certainly one of the guys I have in my player pool because of that. Abraham Ancer is pretty good at playing the golf ball. I know we talked about that a little bit. Martin Laird, because he's from Scotland, he's had a lot of success doing that. I mean, in this field specifically, guys, there's not that many that really have a knack for that, right? So that's why somebody like a Russell Knox tomorrow is going to be an especially good play because we know about that. It's a narrative that's there. And a lot of the casual golf fans don't know about that, right? It seems to be like this hugely known thing, especially around like golf Twitter, the people that are really connected in with the sport. But outside of us that pay attention to it every single day, trust me, it's not that well known of a thing. Let's talk about this AK range, though, before we talk. Actually, let's catch up on these chat. I forgot, but we had a little bit. Antonio says, I'm done with Reed. He's horrendous. I agree with you. I absolutely hate the guy. This week just further backs that up. I'm still going to play him when it makes sense, but yeah, I still hate the guy. I'll admit that. Catch Me Can says, Young has the second highest apex on tour. I'm staying away. Like I said, though, that's the average apex height. So hopefully you just heard my little spiel about that. It's just like how Rory McIlroy has a super high apex height and he can't fight the golf ball. Guys like Cameron Young can't. Like Tiger Woods, for example, he has a very high average apex height. But like I said, he's more than capable of fighting it down low. Steven says, I think Fitz was somewhat used to shitty conditions. Yeah. So I mentioned him before. Sorry. I was looking at the bottom half of the leaderboard. Yeah. Towards the top. He's very used to them as well. He's from the European Tour. He's had a lot of success at the Scottish Open, even Open Championship type of conditions, those type of players. And because this is a weaker field, there's not going to be a ton of guys like that. A few that are notoriously bad under really shitty conditions. I guess that's even more important to point out here. Rory McIlroy, right? Notoriously bad under shitty conditions. Keegan Bradley, notoriously bad under shitty conditions. Moving on a little bit further, Mackenzie Hughes, I meant to mention him. He's really good in these conditions. He's a grinder, very solid at getting up and down. And certainly go to Mackenzie Hughes. Moving down, let's see. Is there anyone else that's really bad? Not that I think of, right? There's a lot of lower tier players. There's just not a lot of big name players out there. But yeah, Fitzpatrick would certainly be that. Angela says, how much Mitchell did I have? I had 10%. Like I said, didn't really matter. I had him in 15 lineups. I liked him this week. I thought he had some upside. So I was there with you, Angela. I had him in a few lineups, but it's not like I had a ton of them. I had 22 6 of 6 lineups this week. I had 55 of 6 lineups this week, which is about 4x in terms of the 6 of 6 rate. It's about 1.5x in terms of the 5 to 6 rate. And I'm cashing for $1,088 right now on $750 in entries. So that's the review of how I'm doing so far. I'll show you guys a few lineups at the end that I have towards the top of the leaderboard. Nick says, I'm sorry to put Knox in your head. It's okay. I absolutely love him this week, though. Knox is my boy. And if we are looking for a guy that can get hot with the putter, do you look at McCarthy? I would usually look at McCarthy for that type of thing, right? But because of his position on the leaderboard, he's going to be ultra chalky. There's going to be a lot of people that go to Denny McCarthy. You can see I have him at 16.9%. He's $7,800. The only issue I have is he's overpriced because of his position, and he's also over-owned. So usually I would agree with you there, right? If we're looking for somebody that can get hot with the putter, maybe not this time though, right? I think it's a little bit of a different play given the amount of people that are on him. So hopefully that answers your question. I don't hate the play though. I like that type of thinking. Just perhaps, if he wasn't in second place of the golf tournament, might be a little bit of a sneakier pick there. All right, let's go ahead and keep moving on with the player pool here, though. Start talking about some of these guys in the 8K range, which Sergio, I'd be okay getting behind. I just personally don't have any in my player pool. He was a little bit shaky today. On day one, it was kind of the short game carrying him. Believe it or not, at one point during the round today, he was number one in the entire field in shots gained putting. Now, that was before the PM wave tee off. That was before they even finished their round there in the morning. So, of course, it's kind of jerry-rigged, the fact that he was number one in terms of shots gained putting. But typically, he's right around the bottom in the field. So that's not necessarily indicative of success to come, because you want to see somebody having success with their strong suit, what they're known for, what they can go out there and consistently gain strokes to the field with. It's kind of weird to see Sergio gaining with the flat stick. So I'm not somebody that I'm all that excited to get to, but I would not be surprised if he went out there, had a decent round. He's more than capable of playing in some windy conditions. Joel Damon as well. He won the Corrales Putacana under relatively difficult, windy conditions out there in the Dominican Republic. I can see myself going that way even after his last 9 collapse today. He was in second place of the tournament and ended up making the cut by 1 stroke. So that tells you how bad the back 9 was for Joel Damon. Perhaps that makes you want to stay away, but that's also why he's much lower owned than he should be. For this 8K range, he's one of the middle owned type of guys. He's made a ton of birdies on the week. So clearly the ball striking and the putting has been there, just has to clean it up. And the fortunate part for Showdown is it doesn't matter how many bogeys they make. We're just looking for somebody to go out there, make 5 to 6 birdies. Of course, a clean card would be, I'd say, preferred, right? It'd be advantageous for us to not have to get those negative points for the bogeys. But as you guys know with the scoring, it's far more important to make birdies than it is to, not make bogeys, to save par. I'd much rather have the guy that makes 8 birdies on the day that only shoots 3 under par than the guy that makes 3 birdies on the day and only shoots 3 under, right? There's a huge difference. The guy that makes 8 birdies will score an extra 15, maybe even 20 more points than the other guy. Siwoo Kim here, $8,500. He's a birdie maker, aggressive, absolute madman out there on the golf course. He's always taking aim at pins in Showdown. He's always somebody I have my eye on for that reason, because he's not afraid to go low. And under difficult conditions, we've seen him have a little bit of success. Now, he's not known for it, so I don't want to tout him as somebody that's, known for that. That has a ton of shots gained metrics on these difficult conditions, but he won the Players' Championship under relatively windy conditions. We've seen him have success at Sedgefield Country Club, which is a comp course to here. And outside of his back 9 today, which was also pretty brutal, right around 10:30, 11 a.m. Eastern time today, he played pretty well. And that was when the rain really started to come down. That's when guys like a Siwoo Kim started to falter. It's when Sergio Garcia had his bad back 9. Cameron Young kind of faltered during that same stretch. Who else? Scroll down a little bit here. Guys like Johnny Vegas, he had a little bit of a slip up towards the end. There's a lot of guys that right around 11:30 a.m. today shot like 2-3 over par. In fact, guys like a Patrick Reed shot like 5 over par under 3 holes, and Gary Woodland, he shot like 4 over 3 holes or something like that. You don't want to hold that too much against these guys, right? Like Cameron Young, if you take a look at the shots gained metrics, you can see why he's such a good play. He gains a ton of strokes off the tee and on approach. Same thing with Sergio. He's had a decent week, but even more so, guys like Joel Damon that got absolutely killed this afternoon during that stretch, and guys like a Siwoo Kim who've been playing some pretty darn good golf to this point of the week. We'll catch up on chat. Chandler says, thoughts on KH Lee? Always like myself, some TPC Lee when it comes to difficult conditions. You guys can see towards the bottom here, he is in the player pool. I think he'll be low owned. I think he's a sneaky pick because the recent form hasn't been all that good. To this point in the golf tournament, he's not like really shining in any one shots gained category, but he makes sense from a course fit perspective when we're going to see these super difficult conditions. So I could see myself there. Tony says, thoughts on Day in list tomorrow. List ball striking is a joke. So let's talk about him. There are 2 chalky plays. First off, Jason Day, I'm not getting to. He's in first place. He has no incentive to be aggressive tomorrow, to go out there, shoot anything better than even par. And I have a hard time targeting those guys in Showdown, the guys that are in first place to begin with. So unless I'm completely convinced they're going to go out there, shoot 3 or 4 under par again, kind of like I was with John Rahm last week. He was one of the few guys that I'm willing to roster at the top of the leaderboard. I'm probably not going to be there. So that answers it there on Jason Day. I just think he's going to be a little bit too chalky. With Luke List, it's the same story. Because he's too cheap, I mean, he should easily be like $8,000, $8,500 right now on the slate. He's going to be a fade. I have him in my 4-round stuff. I have 35% Luke List this week. Outrageously too much. I just thought the price tag was very off. I thought he should have been $1,000 more expensive, at the very least for 4-round stuff. And you could argue the same thing here for Showdown. But because we're in Showdown, it's an extremely volatile format. Just because somebody is such a value doesn't mean they're a must play for me, right? It's a 1-round sample size. He's more than capable of going out there, not having the putter tomorrow and shooting something like 1 to 2 over par, right? That's more than capable, especially in the conditions that we're expecting tomorrow. So I hope he plays well. I hope I'm proved wrong, especially for my 4-round stuff. He's in pretty much all of my high scoring lineups this week, but not going to be a play for me. I think he's going to be a little bit too chalky. Same thing with Jason Day. Between the two, you're looking at right around, 50% ownership between the two. Just pretty outrageous stuff. If you play both of them in the same lineup, you're going to be duplicated with at least half the lineups out there. Let's talk about a few of the 7K guys now. So first and foremost, we have Johnny Vegas at $7,800. We played him today. He's a short golf course type of specialist, and he's been much better than people want to give him credit for at these difficult tracks. We mentioned that yesterday, the short track thing, but even at these difficult tracks, he's been much better than people want to give him credit for. I don't know if it's because he has a few top 5 finishes at Birdie Fest, quote unquote, like the Fortinet Championship, like the Sanderson Farms, where people immediately just want to identify him as this bomb and gouge, resort style golf course type of specialist. That is not Johnny Vegas. He's more than capable of being precise off the tee. And I'm willing to go back there. He shot 1 under par in the relatively difficult conditions this morning. So hopefully he can do the same thing tomorrow. That would be more than adequate of around anything under par. Matthew Neesmith at 77. He's also been pretty solid at these coastal windy type of tracks. Now, this isn't a coastal track, right? But it's going to play like a coastal track with all the wind that we have. So the fact that we've seen Neesmith have success at those type of venues, perhaps there's a little bit of crossover there. And I meant to mention that during the preview when we were talking about the weather at the beginning, was that coastal tracks like the Dominican Republic for Corrales, Puerto Rico Open, Cocoa Beach, you could take a look at. Any place where we've seen, this 20 to 25 mile an hour winds, you see that over there at Pebble Beach from time to time when it gets windy. I mean, down here in South Florida, where we get those super windy conditions, quote unquote, tropical golf, that's going to be a decent comp for tomorrow. Just understand, though, it's going to be even harder. So it's a good way to encapsulate perhaps the guys that have success in those conditions, but it is going to be a little bit harder than quote unquote tropical golf. Brian Harman is solid to this point. I know Nick out there has an outright bet on Brian Harman, so good on you for that bet. And he looks solid. He's good at these difficult tracks. We've seen him have success at U.S. Open type of conditions. So perhaps not surprised that he's playing well this week, right? The one thing about the U.S. Open that is a recurring theme year in and year out with the USGA is the long rough, right? 3.5, sometimes even 4.5, 5-inch rough. That's exactly what we have this week. So not necessarily a surprise to see him at the top of the board. Russell Knox, I think we've given enough airtime by accident here too, by me calling Russell Henley Russell Knox like 10 times. But Knox is known for his prowess under these shitty conditions, and at $7,500 will be in my player pool. Lanto Griffin at $7,400. He's a pretty decent play. You can see he's number 23 in my modeling. The reason why I like him is he has shown an ability at these Texas courses. And I know it's not a tropical fair, but it's super windy in Texas, especially for the Valero Texas Open, the Houston Open, where he's had a ton of success in his career. There's been super windy conditions. So at $7,400, I'm one of the guys that might be able to find at least a little bit of success. Same thing with Rory Sabatini. You've seen him down in the Florida swing over the years, have plenty of success when it's been difficult, particularly the Honda Classic. That's really what jumps out to me with a Sabatini. So if you could take a look at him, Mackenzie Hughes, another U.S. Open type of specialist. The last 2 U.S. Opens has cracked the top 10 at one point. Solid around the greens, solid on the greens. And at one point today was 5 under par, was up there in the top 3 of the event. Ended up kind of like a few of the other guys, right around 11:30 a.m. today, made a couple double bogeys. And it was because the conditions were really brutal out there. So I'm not going to hold that against him. Outside of that, was playing some beautiful golf. We talked about KH Lee. I like his skill set. He's not playing all that well, though. believe he's like 2 or 3 under par, just kind of getting himself by to this point. Nick Taylor just made the cut. I believe he is one of the few guys to finish at even par. I played him going into the week because of the ball striking. He's still gaining on approach. It's relatively accurate off the tee. Both of those should be useful for tomorrow. Michael Thompson, another straight driver of the golf ball. He gains on approach, gains with the putter. If he can keep himself on the greens a little bit more often than his peers, I could very well see him having a decent round tomorrow. Kurt Kitayama's shots gain metrics, he's in the top 5 right now, or just immaculate. He's getting a ton of strokes off the tee on approach, and he's, I believe, just slightly gaining with the flat stick, or losing to the field. It's one of the two. I know he's not gaining a ton of strokes with the flat stick because he was extremely exciting for me to get to him here in Showdown. Stuart Sink, an experienced, wily veteran. I could see him going out there and taking the place low. Same thing with Brendan Steele, another wily veteran that is accurate off the tee, going to keep himself in position. Peter Malnati is an absolute madman. The guy is due to go low here at some point. To this point of the week, has been pretty decent with his ball striking as well. Camilo Villegas, super cheap at $6,300, towards the bottom of the board. Gains off the tee, gains on approach. Same thing with Par Barjan. Barjan, $6,200. Gains off the tee. Like I said, the ball striking is always pretty solid for the Frenchman. So that's probably the cheapest guy on the board that I'd go to. See if there's any questions down here. We got Nick asking about Cooch. I'm not the most excited about Cooch just because the ball striking today was really dreadful. Usually if it's the flat stick that's holding somebody back, I'll try and get to them and whatnot. But to this point of the week for Cooch, it's been the off the tee. He's missed a ton of fairways today. He was actually having to lay up on a bunch of the greens. And anytime you're hitting out of the rough, it's a hard task, especially out of 3.5 inch bluegrass to hit these greens. So unless he can be more accurate off the tee, I'm not sure I'm going to be there. But I guess I understand it, right? He's down as a blank for me. So I don't hate the play by any means. Just I'm a little bit worried about that accuracy there. Catch Me Can says a joke. What were you referring to? Not sure what you're talking about. Joke meaning amazing. Oh, okay. You were talking about Luke List's ball striking. Gotcha. That makes sense. Yeah, it's really amazing. It is a joke how good his ball striking is, because if Luke List was even an average player with his putting, he has a Hall of Fame resume. He probably has 15 to 20 tour wins at this point. He's a Hall of Fame level player. If he has that with just even an average level of putting. So yeah, I agree with you, Antonio. It's pretty sick. Nick says, an unrelated news, Philly just blew a 14-point lead. Love to see it. I don't like Philly. I'm a Pittsburgh guy, right? So we have a little bit of that in-state rivalry. Even if we don't have an NBA team, it's a city-on-city type of thing. Steven says, Kitayama too chalky for Showdown, playing great. I don't think he's too chalky. So one thing about these guys in the 6K range is even if they're playing well, they usually don't get that much ownership. So what did I have Kitayama at? Right here, I have him at 5.3%. So guys like Chappell, right, are only 4%. He's only 1.3% more. No, I wouldn't say he's too chalky. It's a product of them being down there in the 6K range. Usually don't get quite as enough attention as they deserve. Antonio says this isn't a golf question, but thoughts on Oliveira missing the cut. So Cowboy missing the cut. If anyone doesn't know, there is a UFC card tomorrow. I'm debating putting out, actually I'm not debating, I am going to put out some picks tomorrow morning for that. And it's a shame because he, of course, is stripped from his belt because he did miss weight. And given that he has, I forget his disorder, he has some type of an eating disorder, or I should say, stomach disorder where he's not able to eat the same things as other people. That's surprising to me that he missed weight, right? Because usually he comes in underweight. So yeah, that was certainly surprising. I, kind of feel bad for the guy. I don't think he should be stripped of his belt like that. Barry says, decent day, Fitz, Homa, and cheaper Rory. The cheaper Rory came through for you. That's for sure, right? Fitz and Homa were pretty decent plays for me too. I wish I had more exposure in Showdown because the truth is, I had a decent day, Barry. I actually lost a little bit of money on Showdown today because I only played 20 lineups and I didn't have the right combo. I had like 4 solid plays, core plays across most of my lineups. And then I had those 2 duds. So I'm glad you were able to take it down, Barry. That's solid. I'm sure the other Rory helped you out. I didn't have them in my player pool. Kind of wish that I did. But today, I should say tomorrow's a new day. We're going to go out there. We got another 20 max to go out there and take this thing down. Hopefully we can. All right, let's go over to a strategy thing. Let's go over to Draftkings. Talk a little bit about playout, lineup construction, a little bit about cash lineups versus GPPs, all that sort of fun stuff. And let's start off with some GPP talk. So we're going to go through a lineup, kind of my thought process and whatnot. And as per usual, if there's any questions that we haven't touched on, any players that you want me to deep dive on, go ahead and put that down in the chat right now so we can touch on that before we hop out of here. All right. So for the GPP lineup, as per usual, got to make sure we're building slightly unique. And when you're in Showdown, you're dealing with, in this type of contest, this isn't a good example, right? It's only 66 entries. Pretend we're entering this in a 20 to 30,000 entry contest, right? So a large field GPP, leaving a little bit of salary on the table is one way to try and make yourself unique. And then there's lineup construction. And a lot of times when it comes to Showdown, because the pricing is relatively soft, people won't try to jam in studs and duds, right? They'll try to avoid the 6K range if they can. And really, one way to just make your lineup unique is just to take a chance on somebody down low. Maybe it's Kimlo Vajegas. I think he has a decent shot to play well tomorrow. You go up here to the top of the 6K range, take a chance on somebody like a Peter Malnati. By doing that, you almost make yourself unique just by default. You don't really even have to think about ownership. So this is a way I like to build. I kind of wanted to show this because I usually don't do it this way here on the stream. It's building from the bottom of the board and going up, right? Taking your 2 value picks down low and then seeing what type of studs you can actually fit into that lineup. So for here, let's go ahead and put Corey Connors in there. I like his upside in these windy conditions. Same thing with Matt Fitzpatrick. Those are two of my favorite plays on the slate, truth be told. In terms of a second man in, we go to Max Homa. He wouldn't be a bad option. Let's try and be really aggressive about it, though. Let's take Russell Henley. Take him at $10,000. That puts us into the 7K range. And again, because we're taking a Vajegas and a Peter Malnati, we can spend all of our salary. We can take Russell Knox, the wind god at this point. And I have no other word for it. The guy is unbelievable in these windy conditions. So here you can see we have chalky Corey Connors, chalky Matt Fitzpatrick. He's going to be 25% plus owned. Henley is going to be in that 17 to 20% range, so also relatively chalky. Same thing with Russell Knox. I would expect him to get quite a bit of attention. But this lineup should still be unique, even though it's spending all of its salary. So that's the power of going to some of these value picks that are just going to be completely ignored by the field. Not only do you get some of that salary savings, but it also helps you out with making a unique lineup. So in a single round sample size, super volatile type of event or sport when it comes to Showdown golf, that's a way that you can make a unique lineup. Now, if you wanted to be a little bit more conventional about it, right, not take 2 extremely unique plays down low, let's talk about how I would hand build a lineup, right? Just a typical type of lineup that you'd be building. So maybe to start out, this one would go with Max Homa, try and be a little bit more balanced about it. Matt Fitzpatrick is one of my favorite plays there, but just for the sake of differentiating ourselves a little bit, let's go ahead and put Cameron Young in there. So we have 7,800 per player left. Siwoo Kim, I absolutely love as well. We can kind of slot him in there. You go to Matthew Neesmith, take Johnny Vegas, and wrap it up down here with a Lanto Griffin. Now, in this lineup, we might actually want to adjust this. So let's go ahead and do an analysis. First off, Max Homa going to be 30% owned. It might be the highest owned play on the slate. So going to have to be careful with playing him. Cameron Young probably going to be 15 to 20% owned. So also a little bit of a problem there. Siwoo Kim, a little bit lower owned. That's pretty solid. Lanto, probably single digit owned. Neesmith, maybe right around 10%. I kind of want to leave some salary on the table. I'm a little bit concerned that this lineup would be duplicated. So what I would do here is I'd take somebody like Neesmith, who's probably my least favorite player in this lineup, and pivot to Russell Knox. Now, Russell Knox is going to be much higher owned than a Matthew Neesmith. In fact, could be 5 to 10% higher owned tomorrow, given the circumstances. This lineup has a higher chance of being unique, right? So that's what I meant before when it's not all about going out there and just limiting ownership. Sometimes it's about leaving salary on the table. And truth be told, I have this lineup projected for more points than the other lineup, right? Because Russell Knox is a better play for me than somebody like a Matthew Neesmith. So when you're making lineups, that's usually the best way to go about making yourself unique. So you can go about it the first way, taking 2 of those super low-owned plays down low, or the second way where you're leaving a little bit of salary on the table. Now, lastly, for a cash lineup. So trying to take some of that ownership, trying to just go for a median 50th percentile type performance. For this slate specifically, I think we got to start a little bit cheaper. I think Max Homa is a must play when it comes to the same thing with Matt Fitzpatrick. In the 8K range, you got to try and be as safe as humanly possible. So taking guys, I mean, I guess the safest play, can't go to Joel Damon after his back nine. That gives me nightmares, at least in a cash scenario. Kean Bradley would make sense. He'll be extremely popular. He's really solid with the ball striking. Now, from a ceiling perspective, not really sure I'm sold on it, but that's not what we're looking for here. You go to guys like a Johnny Vegas, makes sense. Denny McCarthy, right? We don't care about him being chalk here. We probably don't even need Vegas then. That puts us at $7,700. Let's take Jason Day and see if we can do it. So Jason Day is $8,800. He's going to be super chalky. That's really the only reason I'm not playing him. And then down at $6,600. We're slightly overextending ourselves here. Yeah, we're overextending ourselves. So we are going to have to adjust this here a little bit. So for me, I would be pivoting off of Keegan Bradley. That puts us at $73,500. You can take Russell Knox, who's my favorite play on the slate. And at $7,200, we can wrap it up with pretty much whoever we want. I think Gsluke makes sense there. So for cash, it would be this type of lineup. Now, these would be my core 5 for cash. They're going to be maybe the highest owned 5 plays on the slate in each price range. Just take your favorite play down here at $7,200. Right? You got Gsluke, some of these guys at $7,000, like a Nick Taylor. You could take Martin Laird because of his success in windy conditions. You could slot him there as well. All of those lineups would be adequate for cash. I'd be willing to leave the salary on the table if you liked somebody like a Laird or a Gsluke, because these 5 guys up top are undoubtedly my favorite cash plays. That's for sure. I'll catch up on chat before we hop on out of here. Tony says Harman, he's been playing really good. I do really like Harman. He's shown an ability at U.S. Opens before, also windy conditions. So certainly agree with you there. I think he's a great play. He says, final question, but thoughts on Finau and Shank? I'm not so much sold on Finau. He has a little bit of a higher ball flight, which could be an issue for tomorrow's slate. And I think he's going to be a little bit more popular than he should be. So I'm not really on Finau. In terms of Adam Shank, let me actually take a look at his shots gained. I'm going to bring it up on my phone here. I just need to make sure that he's not gaining a ton of strokes with the flat stick. I gotta hope he's gaining off the tee on approach, because that is the real issue for Adam Shank. Is sometimes he's a little bit putter dependent. Goes out there, plays some solid golf, but it's because he gains 5 strokes to the field and whatnot with the flat stick. So 1 second. What did he shoot? Oh, he's 3 under par. Good for him. He's playing pretty well. In terms of his shots gained, he is gaining off the tee. He is slightly losing on approach, and he's gaining around the green and with the putter. It's not a play I hate. I just don't love the play because he's still losing on approach. That is the most consistent category from day to day. And if he loses it with the short game, could be a little bit dicey there. So not my favorite play, man, but not my, least favorite play for sure. And Draft, of course, I guess was destroyed by Streelman. Guys, if you have one play that is killing your week, you're making your DFS lineups wrong. I'm just going to leave it at that. I'm not going to do my whole spiel. I've done it like 50 times here on the channel. If you've been playing golf DFS for more than a month, you know that one player shouldn't be making a break in your week. But I digress, right? Guy missed the cut. It sucks. I had some Streelman too, right? Sucks. I had him in 15% of lineups. But it shouldn't be the end-all, be-all. Trust me, Draft, of course, it was not Streelman that killed your week. It's probably the other 10 players you had that missed the cut. So tough love there, but that's the truth. Have to give it to you. Got to give you a fastball there. Either way, guys, I appreciate you stopping by, giving me all your questions. Best of luck for all of your lineups tomorrow. If you do have any questions and you are watching this during the replay, feel free to go ahead and comment those down below. I will get back to you as soon as I can. We will be doing this, of course, for round 4. So keep an eye out for that stream sometime tomorrow night. I'm going to try and keep it early because like Nick said, I know a lot of you guys are going to bed a little bit early. So I'll try and go live before you guys hit the sack. Best of luck for tomorrow. We will have a prize picks video dropping out, I don't know, probably around like 9:45, 10 p.m., something like that. So look forward to that as well. Tony says tomorrow has Haddon written all over it. He certainly did it today. Now, he was in the easier of the 2 9s. He was playing in the PM wave. He got a little bit of a break there with the weather. He still took it low today, so that was pretty cool. So, all right, guys, I will see you guys later. By the way, if you guys keep posting down in chat, quote unquote, guys that killed your lineups, I'm just going to block you. It's just annoying. So Go and have a great weekend. Don't fixate on one guy that missed the cut for you this week. That's making you have a bad time. You're just not going to have a good time with golf DFS. It's a volatile sport. You're going to miss. You're going to hit on some. Just telling you from experience, somebody that's played a lot of golf DFS, it's not going to be a good time. So just leave it at that. By the way, that is your last warning. By the way, if you do that again, I'm just blocking you. I don't care. I don't need that type of negativity in my life. It's hard enough to play a sport where it's this volatile, let alone enough when you have guys breathing down your neck every week because you had like one of your 30 guys miss the cut. Like, come on, guys. Leave me alone, right? I do this. I give you guys your free content. Try to be as much of a help as I can. Don't really need you guys bitching and complaining at me. But again, I'll leave it at that. I didn't really have to want to leave this live stream on that type of note. But it gets really old really fast. Okay, so just keep that in mind. But have a great Saturday, guys, and hopefully you win tomorrow.